Welcome back to this edition of the Rayner Report. We're going to cover something pretty rapid fire right now. We try to get these done in 10 to 12 minutes so that we can be as beneficial to your time and help you to just watch something real quickly and to maybe show it to your leadership team. So we're going to go rapid fire on 10 reasons church members don't invite others to church. 10 reasons church members don't invite others to church. Wouldn't it be great if you had an inviting culture in your church? Wouldn't it be great if you had people just constantly inviting others to come to their church? Well, it doesn't happen in many churches. Why is that? What are the most common reasons they don't? Now, let me make this very, very clear. We did a study many years ago on inviting people to church. And we found that nearly 3/4 of those who were invited to church would come. Now, it did mean that you had to walk into the church facility with them. They didn't want to come alone. But just think how huge that would be if you're in a church of 100 and you have 50 people inviting and 3/4 of those show up, you'd have 35, 36, 37 first-time guests. And that's just saying that they came as one person, not as a family. It could be incredible for your church. So let's talk about why your church members may not be inviting others to church. Reason number one, I don't think about it. We're busy. We're just going through the activities of life. I love that I carry with me on a regular basis, and I'm looking here to make sure I have it here. Yeah, I do. I carry this card with me at all time. I hope you can see this on the camera. It says, "You're invited." And this little card right here is a card from my church. And it says on here, you probably won't be able to read this, but it says, "You're invited. Join us Sundays." It has worship times, location, website. And every opportunity I get, I pull this card out. Our pastor, who is a guy by the name of Jess Rayner, is always encouraging us to take these cards with us so we can remember to invite. By the way, I did not plan this. I didn't even know I was going to be doing this particular session. This just was in my pocket because I keep it in my pocket most of the time. Can't say at all times. But this helps me to think about it. If I reach in my pocket for something, oh, there's my invitation card. It'll help me to think about it. Number two, I'm afraid I'll be rejected. Well, guess what? You might be, but that's okay. But you know what? Probably 3/4 of the time you won't be. You'll be accepted. It'll be an invitation that you will embrace. And here's something we found out when I wrote a book called The Unchurched Next Door. Only 5% of the responses are going to be antagonistic to you. I mean, seriously, if we can't get one out of 20 where somebody can say, "Oh, you're crazy," or something like that, and that if we can just live with that, that's fine, because 19 out of 20 times they're going to be nice to you, and 3/4 of the time they're going to actually show up to church. So you're not going to be rejected. And by the way, this isn't personal rejection, even if they do say no. It's not about you personally. It's about something going on in their lives. So that's one of the reasons. Number three, the music isn't that good. You know who's saying that? It's the church member who's saying that. It's not the guest. If you've ever heard me say anything, I've talked frequently about the Church of First Merle. That wasn't the name of it, but that was the name of the church where I served as pastor in southern Indiana in my first church. Our music was somewhere between horrible and horrendous. I mean, it was really, really bad. No offense to Merle. He was the only deacon in the church, the only elder in the church. He was the worship leader in the church. He was the stewardship director and the personnel director in the church. The only person that had another role in leadership in the church was Ruby, and that was his wife, and she played piano. And they, bless their hearts, they tried. Bless their hearts, I sound like a southern pastor, don't I? But they really did try. But it was not good. It would be like, I got to tell you this story. My son Sam's first church in near Bardstown, Kentucky. He'd never pastored before, and he gets there, and he's ready to preach, and Sam looks around. I happened to be there for that, and they said, "Who's leading music?" And they said, "Well, I guess you are." Now, if you've heard my son preach, he's a very good preacher, Sam is, as well as Jess, and as well as Art. Okay, so my sons are good preachers. I wouldn't have any of them lead music, though. And Sam would be one of them that would not lead music. And so he's leading music, and I guess he had seen musicians use their hands like this to the timing to lead, but he was so far off, and his vocals were just so terrible, and yet the little church grew. Same thing for my little church in southern Indiana. Terrible. But you know what brings people to church more than anything? It's not music. It's important, but it's relationships. The music isn't that good. Same thing with the preaching. The preaching isn't strong. Now, I'm assuming that the church has biblical preaching. I can assure you that if you are true to the text, God will somehow use it. I am a case study of someone who is not a great preacher by any stretch of the imagination, probably not even a good preacher, but God has used me at different times because you are speaking His word, you're speaking about His word, and that word is inspired by the Holy Spirit. So, hey, the preaching may not be the greatest, but you know what? That is no excuse not to invite someone. Now, I would not invite someone if I had a pastor that is preaching heresy, but that is not the case in most churches. Most churches, there is biblical preaching. A fifth reason, they say, well, we've got too many problems in our church right now. Yeah, sure, you got problems in your church. Every church does. That's kind of like saying I won't come to church because I have there are hypocrites in the church. Well, every church has hypocrites. Every family has hypocrites. And guess what? You're a hypocrite, just like me. Churches will always have problems. That's what the New Testament, most of the letters in the New Testament is all about. The problems are not the reason you're not inviting. Church members are the reason they're not inviting. Number 6, a classic. Our church is already too crowded. Seriously? Okay, let's put out a sign that says, we are currently seizing and freezing the Great Commission at our church. We do not want anyone else to come in until we have sufficient space. I mean, that's what you're saying when you're saying we're too crowded or we have enough people already. Hey, that is not an excuse. That is disobedience. Our church is too crowded. Hey, I hope you have that problem, but don't find a reason to deal with the crowd. Don't stop inviting to church. Number 7, no one ever challenged me to invite anyone. Are you listening to this, watching this video? We're challenging you to invite someone, okay? So you can't use number 7 anymore. And the reason that many leaders don't challenge their members is they have some of these same fears as well, and they don't want to communicate their fears to the leaders. Number 8, I don't know how to start a conversation. You know what? You are watching one of the world's classic introverts, Thom S. I can start a conversation about as well as I can sing a solo, which is very, very bad. But you know how I can start a conversation about my church? Here, right here. Hey, let me give you a card about our church. You're invited. That's it. You don't have to be this eloquent to speak. You can just be obedient. Number 9, it's the Spirit's job, not mine, to bring people to church. Okay, well, it's the Spirit's job to pray for you. It's the Spirit's job to do all acts of obedience for you. It's the Spirit's job to do everything. All we need to do is go into a vegetative state and not do anything because the Spirit is going to do everything for us. No, the Spirit wants you to go, do, say. Finally, number 10, it's too far for people to come. Well, then invite people who are closer. Just as simple as that. And guess what? If you're inviting people that are some distance out, maybe they're willing to come as well. These, ladies and gentlemen, are excuses. Again and again, church leaders have shown us that when they get their people inviting, it is just something that God blesses and people begin to come. Don't let these excuses stop you church members from inviting. I want to just put in front of you a couple of things that I think will help. This little book, Becoming a Welcoming Church. God has used this in many, many, many churches. And this particular book has been used to help churches understand how they can welcome guests better. I mean, we put it all there for you. It's easy to read. It's a typical Rainer read. You can read it very quickly. You can hand it out to your leaders. So, and if you go to lifeway.com, this is very salesy pitchy. I guess it sounds that way. But if you go to lifeway.com, you can get these in a box for $5 a book for 20 books. So this is something that you can use in your church right now to become more welcoming. And then my newest book is called Scrappy Church. Here's where I can get really excited about this. There are so many churches that people have said will never do, they'll never grow, they'll never be anything, and now they are. They're scrappy. They're doing things contrary to conventional wisdom. Scrappy Church is a book for your leaders. This I tell you what, this is my favorite, most recent book. I absolutely love this book. And if you can get this in the hands of some of your leaders and members, I think it can give them new hope as well. So these excuses are not excuses. These excuses are not acceptable excuses. These are reasons that people aren't obedient, and there is no reason not to be obedient. Thank you again for being with us at Reigning on Leadership. As always, we're sponsored by Costco and Associates, incredible church builders. They've been our sponsor for many, many years. Love Tim Songster, the CEO of Costco, and you can find out a lot about them. Go to churchdesign.com. That's churchdesign.com, and find out really about one of the most dynamic church building organizations in the world today. Thank you again for being with us on Reigning on Leadership, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at this same location.